So my definition of veganism is basically about rights allocation more widespread to other species, and in line with how sentient they are determines what rights they get.
Okay, so there is some level of, I guess you'd call it speciesism, because I mean there is some level of, this is a snail, he only gets this amount of rights. This is a hamster, he gets more rights. This is a gorilla, he gets more rights. This is a human. Is that a fair assessment?
No,
that we are
I wouldn't call that speciesism, because the thing that's determining the differential treatment is not indexed to species classification. It's indexed to
maybe sentientism. Would that be more?
If you want to call it sentientism, that's fine with me, because I don't think it's immoral to damage things or frustrate things that are not sentient. I don't even know what it would mean for that to be immoral.
Let me, obviously, and we can run all these hypotheticals, but if I'm driving down the road and there's a kid in the road on one side and there's a rabbit on the road on the other side, I'm going to run over the rabbit every single time, 100%
Me
of the
too.
time. So we make distinctions between animals and humans in certain situations. And James, you don't believe that your diet has no animal death involved in it. Do you believe that there's no animals that die when you consume whatever plant-based diet you consume? There's some. You would concede that. Both you would, I hope.
I would definitely concede that. I just don't see those deaths as rights violations. And that's what's important to me. There are human deaths in the transport and different parts of the system as well that accidentally happen, that I also wouldn't see those as rights violations. I don't think.
Right. Yeah. So accidental death. Yeah. Accidental death. We do a lot of it intentionally. If we look at pesticide usage in the United States, we kill 4 quadrillion insects a year alone. That's a lot. That is done 100% intentionally via pesticide. So that is an intentional. So we know that there is intentional death in pretty much any dietary pattern that any reasonable human can actually adopt. All of us are causing, whether we want to believe it or not, intentional death to these animals. So or am I off base on that? Do you believe there's no intentional death in this stuff?
Oh, I believe there's plenty of intentional death. Okay. I think most of the deaths in agriculture are intentional, but I also think those intentional deaths with respect to plant agriculture are compatible with veganism.
Why is that? Why are we okay slaughtering, if you want to use that word, quadrillions of insects and how many, probably millions, if not billions of small other creatures? Why is that compatible?
Just go back to my definition, right? So I advocate for the trade-adjusted equal treatment of humans and animals. Let's say that they were quadrillions and quadrillions of little people that were accosting our crops and actually posing a threat to our economy and our way of life. And it would be an existential threat if we did nothing about it. So there's quadrillions of these little humans and they're buzzing around and they keep eating our crops. I think even in that case, we'd be okay killing them. And I'd be okay with killing them. Killing those animals is compatible with veganism on my definition.
Interesting. James, is that okay with you, James? Is that something you'd say it's okay to kill little bitty humans if they're eating our crops too?
Because, it's defending your property and defending your life and everyone in your civilization. What is your alternative? I would love it if that wasn't a necessary part of our survival, but as you said, it is. So go ahead.
I would even add to that. They don't have to be trade adjusted to that of an insect in order to sign off on this. If they were like full-fledged human beings, but they were constantly accosting our crops and causing existential threats to our civilization, I think we'd be okay with killing them too. Like, let's say a neighboring country was like, okay, we're just going to attack your food supply. Yeah, we would retaliate. So even if they were fully fledged human beings, we would be okay with this. We don't need to trade adjust in this case.
One of the things I've heard a lot of vegans say, not necessarily you guys, but a lot of vegans say, hey, it's about just causing the least suffering you can, making conscious decisions to decrease the overall amount of suffering. Yes, some animals die. Yes, insects die, but I'm doing my best to minimize that. Is that not a fair thought or definition?
Before we go to that, Sean, can I just ask you, what do you think of that answer that you were just given on the crop deaths? Does that make logical sense to you? If it was,
to me, I don't mind killing crops for us to feed ourselves. It makes complete
even if
sense.
it was humans, like, would you? Well, if there was humans attacking your crop over and over and over again, what are you going to do?
Yeah, like if you're at war, obviously there's war. I've been to war. I've seen the horrors.
Not if you're at war.
Well, but if you're at war, if somebody's
attacking your crop.
But that's a war, act of war in my view.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, there's reasons to kill humans. There's reason to kill animals. There's reason to kill insects. There are reasons.
Would you just say that we're not illogical there? Like, we're not being hypocrites there? Because a lot of people say, oh, crop deaths, vegans are hypocrites. Would you agree that we have a consistent position there?
from my perspective, I don't really care about the crop diets that much. Personally, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense to me. But then you hear a lot of vegans will say, I have no guilt on my plate. And they're like, I'm having a guilt-free meal. There's no death on my plate. And I look at that and I say, wait a minute, but yeah, there are deaths there. And so to ignore that, not at least you guys recognize that, yes, I'm causing death by eating, by existing. And when you look at, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people that I hear that are vegans are saying, I'm doing my very best to minimize suffering. And I'll look at a guy like you, James, you lift weights, you're in shape, you exercise, so do I. It takes more food to do that. There's no doubt about it. The only way you're gonna have muscle is if you eat more. If you eat more, there's more deaths. And so how do you, as a vegan, sort of say, I want to be stronger, I want to be a better athlete, I want to have a little more muscle, but I know I have to eat more. And if I eat more, there are more animals that are dying. Why not just
wait? What's the argument for that?
What's the argument for that? What's
the argument that there are more animals
because you're eating more food? Because you're eating more food production.
Yeah, but
right.
The counterfactual is that we don't have crops, so there's animals dying on wild land too. So what's the argument that the total amount of deaths is going up by eating more food?
If you look at the way food is raised, if you go to a natural landscape, there's birds, there's bees, there's butterflies,
and there's tons of death.
There's tons of death, but when you go to a monocrop, which most of our food is produced in, it is complete and utter destruction. It is absolutely desolation. There's nothing that lives outside of that monocrop. So the number of deaths is, by almost without argument, is going to be greater.
That's an empirical claim. I'd like to see some evidence for that.
Let me ask you, because I'm thinking about this conventional definition. James, would it make sense to you to say that less suffering is better? If we could do something that would lead to less suffering, would that be better?
It would depend on what it was.
It would depend on what it was. Okay.
If less suffering
if it's an all else equal scenario, of course less suffering is better.
Okay, so let's just say, for instance, let's just specifically talk about animal agriculture. You guys find it abhorrent. I think it's necessary. But let's just say that
wait, what do you mean by necessary?
It's necessary for me to get nutrition, for me to be adequately nourished in a way that I want to live. And I think that's
the word necessary, I don't know what it's doing there, because clearly there are alternatives, right?
One way or the other, I got to eat the animal. So if we want to raise them domestically, or if I want to hunt them in the wild.
Phrases like gotta, necessary, I don't know what work these are doing in the proposition that you just said.
For me to be in a position that I want to be in. Again, it's obviously dependent on me, but let me just make the point I was going to make. So in total, the statistics on this show, the average American eats something around 200 animals a year. That's what the average American eats. I eat a carnivore diet. Probably 99% of my calories come from beef. I end up eating about 2 animals a year, right? So am I actually better than the average omnivore because I only cause the direct death of 2 animals versus the 175, 200 that the average person? Is that a fair assessment, or would you say that's wrong as well?
I don't even think it's empirically accurate that you only kill 2 animals.
The equivalent of 2 animals. I eat the equivalent.
No, because you have to include all of the things you have to include all of the death that is entailed in obtaining those. So you're also including things like, I'm assuming that you're an advocate of like pasture raised beef or whatever. No,
I eat both. I clearly eat both.
Okay.
But here's the thing. But if you guys are saying it's totally morally fine to kill all those little insects to produce to kill crops, the same thing with the animal production, right? The same thing with feeding a cow. It's the same thing, right? The same thing ultimately occurs.
I'm calling into question the veracity of the empirics here. So you say 2 animals a year.
But you say it doesn't matter what the empirics are. It doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, it's going to be 2 animals plus whatever justifiable deaths are allowed because they're little tiny humans or little tiny insects eating the bugs.
No. Okay, I'm calling into question, like, regardless of whether or not it's on pasture, you have to count all of the animal deaths that are happening on the land that is producing that meat, because it doesn't have to be pasture. It can be a parking lot, right? So you have to count all of those entailed deaths. It's same with factory farming. They're fed grains. You have to factor in all of the entailed death that is produced from the crops that it takes to feed those animals. So it's not just 2 animals a year. Like, it's just empirically straightforwardly false that that is 2 animals a year.
But let me ask you a question. If you're saying that because I eat 2 cows a year and the average American eats 200 animals a year, right? All of the periphery goes into those animals' production as well. The sheep, the pigs, the chickens. Chickens eat a lot of corn, by the way. Chickens and pigs eat far more crops or far more grain than cows do. That's pretty clear. What you're saying is that me eating less animals is no better than me eating more animals, right? It's just animals in general.
I was specifically calling into question the particular empirical claim that you only
let's ignore the empirical claim. If I eat less animals, is it better?
Are you retracting the empirical claim? Just to be clear.
No, I'm not. But what I'm saying is, let's.
Well, then I'm going to call it into question again.
Okay, fine. Call it into question, and you can disagree. But if I say I'm only eating the equivalent of 2 animals a year, is that better than someone that eats 300 animals a year? As a carnivore, I'm perhaps more.
One second. Okay. I just want to clear this up. Eating 2 animals a year or responsible for 2 animal deaths a year, because both of those things are compatible with the same number of animals dying.
Eating 2 animals a year or being responsible for the death of 2 animals per year. I don't see what the difference is. If you're eating them, obviously they're dead.
Somebody is eating 100 animals. Say somebody is eating 98 animals a year, and it takes 2 animals to get those 98, and you have somebody who's eating 2 animals a year, but it takes 98 animals to get those 2 animals. Both are responsible for the same amount of animal death, but they're eating 2 different proportions of animals. So it's like, which one are you claiming? That you're only eating 2 a year, or that I'm
eating the equivalent of 2 animals per year, right?
Because that's compatible with that entailing more animal death.
From where? From crops you're talking about?
It's just compatible. The issue here is that if the proposition is that you're responsible for less animal death, that's just not evidence for the claim. That you're only eating 2 animals, that's just not evidence for the claim.
If I only eat cows and I don't eat little shrimps and I don't eat chickens, it is very plausible that I'm eating less animals altogether at the end of the day.
Plausible?
Yeah, it's very
plausible. Sure, but whether or not it's probable, you're going to need empirics. You're going to need empirics to show whether or not it's probable. Plausible, I can just trivially grant. Of course, it's like possible that it's true.
I think it would fall under the realm of common sense to most people. You could sit in there and we could sit there.
It's pretty shitty evidence.
We could sit there and obviously trace every molecule that I eat and where it came from, as could you, which would be an exercise in futility because no one's going to ever do that. So we have to have some reasonable sense of groundwork here. If you eat only beef, there's less animals probably dying at the end. Not counting crop deaths, which you don't think count, right?
You use the word probable, which is a statistical term, so I'm assuming that you have some statistics to back up that claim. Do you? Yes or no?
Yes, a cow is much bigger than a chicken.
Okay, can I see those statistics?
Let's see. A cow weighs something like 1,200 pounds. A chicken weighs something like 7 pounds or something like that.
I don't see how that matters.
Because there's more meat on one animal than the other.
Yeah, but are we talking about total animal death or just how many you're eating in a year? Because I'm not disputing how many you're eating.
If I were to eat a whale, right, that could feed me for probably 2 decades, right? So if I ate mice, it's clear to anybody that you're killing less animals have to die to produce that amount of food.
I don't know why you're appealing to like popular intuitions. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for empirics.
A whale is
You're making an empirical claim. It requires empirical evidence.
A whale is bigger than a mouse.
If you were raising whales, you're going to need to feed them a lot of animals, right?
They're carnivores. That's interesting. It's one of those things. They're going to eat a lot of krill.
But the point is that it's not just about the one whale that you eat. It's about the process of getting the whale to feed.
So a whale kills a lot of krill, and that doesn't matter because it's like they're minor, small things. Maybe the krill are eating algae or something. They're killing some crop for some other species. Like I said, it's a very circular argument, but.
Wait.
Can we do something then? Unless you want to do something different, Nick. You were about to go on to, you said the meat of the argument kind of thing. I was interested.
Yeah, there's a way to cut straight to the heart of the matter.
Okay,
here.
Go ahead.
What is true of an animal that is untrue of a human, that if made true of a human would justify us slaughtering them for meat? That's all I'm asking. Like, what is the differential property between humans and animals that justifies the asymmetrical treatment in your mind? There must be something, Sean.
Yeah, there are different species. They're different species.
Well,
I'm a species. I am clearly a speciesist. I don't mind that label.
No, that's not. We can explore that, but that's not an answer to the question.
And the question is, would I eat another human being? This is what you're getting at, and I've already said in the right circumstances.
That's not what I'm getting at. That's not what I'm getting at. That's not what. I don't care what you would do personally. I'm asking what you find morally acceptable. Those are two different things, right? So. All I want to know is what justifies the asymmetrical treatment between humans and animals. That's all I want to know.
There are inherent differences. There are many differences. There are literally thousands and thousands of differences between me and a dog.
Any of them,
all of them. All or any of them.
any. Okay, so wait, you said all of them.
All or
So that
any of
means-
them. They're different species. They're different critters. I will eat
All-
critters. I'm not gonna go my way to eat humans, right?
All or any of them. So if we took a human hair and put it on a cow, they would no longer be morally right to.
No,
kill
there's still
in
a
your
cow
mind?
because you haven't replaced the rest of it. If they turned
But
into
you
a
said
human
all
being,
or any. You said all or any traits.
If you covered a cow in human hair, it would still be a cow to me. I'd still eat it.
Wait,
If you
but
cover-
that's
if a cow started talking, I would still eat it eventually. It might not be the first cow.
Wait.
Right?
Okay, wait. You said all or any traits, right? What's logically entailed from that is that if you took a human hair and put it on a cow, then it would be ethical to it would still be ethical to like kill the cow. Or if you
Sure.
took a cow hair and put it on a human, then it would
Because
be,
it's still a human.
It
It's
would
still
be
a
ethical
human.
to
If-
kill the human.
if
Like
I-
that's what's logically entailed. I just want to get clear. That's what's logically entailed from what you just said.
So if, let's say, suddenly you implanted a horn on your head, Nick, there's some people with body modification, people that are thinking, I'm a cow, I would still not eat the human unless we're in the Andes.
Right,
and
so
we're
is the
starving,
trait
right?
just being human? Because we can
Yeah, the
call
trait is
instead
just
of
being
any-
human. The trait is just being human. The trait is just being human.
Like a ridiculous thing to say. in
Right. So
response to that
being
question, but just
being
human.
a human takes it off the plate for me, right? So there you go.
Okay.
In less extreme circumstances. That's all it is.
Then I have a follow-up question. Please just engage with the line of reasoning. Like, I have a follow-up question. Let's say that we discover a group of beings that were identical to humans in every way except for a cluster of genetics that push them outside of the distribution of Homo. Would it be ethical to just...
So if we ran a bunch of, let's say we had a bunch of Homo erectus still running around.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I would be less inclined to eat them. How's that? Now, do I know that I wouldn't eat them? Like I said,
Well,
this is a
it's
matter.
yes or
But
no.
I
Like,
would.
would
I
it be
probably
morally
would.
permissible?
Would it be morally permissible? I don't know. I'm not the ultimate authority on that. And I probably personally would not eat another Homo erectus. Okay, but they don't exist. This is a situation that doesn't exist and probably never will exist. So if we talk in fantasy, where we can.
You are the
I'm
ultimate
not the
authority.
ultimate.
No. You let me finish my sentence. You are the ultimate authority on what you consider okay and not okay. You are the ultimate authority on that. So what I'm asking is,
okay, so would I? So I probably wouldn't eat it if we found a group of Homo erectus walking around. I probably would not eat them, and I probably would not advocate.
That's not what I'm
for
asking. I'm not asking if you would eat them or not. I'm asking whether or not you think it would be okay if we ate them. The same way we eat cows: string them up upside down, slit their throats, eat their meat.
Again, for me, and again, I don't know what other people.
It's just
consider.
A yes or no, Sean.
I can't speak for everybody else. I can speak for myself.
I'm not asking
personally.
you to. I'm asking for your position, whether or not you think that's okay or not okay.
For me to do.
Yeah.
I probably
for it to be done. For it to be done. So I'm asking you, like, would you be okay for it to be done that these beings that are like humans in every way except for a cluster of genetics that pushes them outside of the distribution of Homo, would you be okay with them being factory farmed is the question.
If they're the same as humans, no.
Okay, so that's a contradiction.
Okay, it's a contradiction.
Dude.
Fuck off, I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude,